Well, welcome back. We went through in my last video how to find the quadrants of an angle and how to use that to help you find, evaluate the 6 trigonometric functions. Well, we're going to continue and do some more examples of this. I'm going to do 2 more examples going through here. And so, without further ado, let's say we have example number 2. First off, we want to figure out the 6 trigonometric functions, so we can figure out what sine of this angle is, what cosine of the angle is, what the tangent of this angle is. We also want to figure out what the cosecant of the angle is, but we already know it's 4. All right, and then we want to figure out what the secant of the angle is, and then finally, what is the cotangent of this particular angle. Now, in order to figure this out, the first thing we got to do is figure out where is this angle located? What quadrant is this angle located in? So using our knowledge of what we learned in the past videos is let's figure this out by thinking about cosecant. Cosecant is 1 over sine of the angle, which is the same thing as 1 over y. And this ratio happens to be positive. So really we're trying to say, when is y positive? Y is positive here in the first and second quadrant. Now, it also gave us some information saying that cotangent for this particular angle is also less than 0. Cotangent is x over y because it's cosine of the angle over sine of the angle. And so we know that is going to equal a negative number. And so where is cotangent negative? Well, positive and negative. All right, so that's going to be in the second quadrant. So our angle that we are referring to is really only located here in the second quadrant. Okay, now that's important because that allows us to identify where our reference angle is. Our reference angle is here. And so from this reference angle, I'm going to create a triangle, a nice right triangle right here, and use the ratio that I'm given, 4 and 1. All right, that was out. So what is cosecant? Well, sine has a ratio of opposite over hypotenuse. And so cosecant is the reciprocal of that, which would be hypotenuse over opposite. All right, so this is going to equal 4 over opposite 1. 4 over opposite 1. Well, that helps me out because that allows me to figure out what sine is. Sine is going to be the reciprocal of that of 4, which would be 1/4. But how do I figure out cosine? So I got to figure out this x value. So to figure out the x value, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. 4 squared, all right, minus 1 squared. Take the square root of that. That will give us our x value. And so we have 16 minus 1 is going to equal the square root of 15. Okay, now the square root of 15, remember it's in the second quadrant, so that's actually going to be negative square root of 15. And so when we do this, our cosine is going to be negative square root of 15 over 4. And we can see secant is going to be, the reciprocal of that would be 4 over negative square root of 15. And if we want to simplify that, that would be 4 over the square root of 15 over 15 with a negative. The tangent is opposite over adjacent, and we have that, or negative square root of 15 over 15. And cotangent, that's going to equal negative square root of 15 over 1. And that is our 6 trigonometric ratios. Well, let's try one more to see how this deals when you have a problem like this. All right, so in this one, it says sine of theta equals 0. So we want to figure out the sine of theta, which equals 0. We want to figure out the cosine of theta. We want to figure out the tangent of theta. We want to figure out the cosecant of theta. The secant of theta, which just tells us is -1, and the cotangent of theta. Well, in this particular example, it says cosine of this. Well, remember, sine is y, so y equals 0. We know that secant is 1 over cosine of theta, and that equals -1. So this gives us a little pause, because what quadrant is this in? Well, y equaling 0, it's not positive or negative, so there's no quadrant at all. Not in a quadrant. Okay, because this is actually, because y equals 0, it has to be on either this point or this point. And because 1 over cosine is actually the same thing as 1 over x in our unit circle, this means that x has to equal -1. So x equals -1, y equals 0. That gives us a point right here, which is our angle. Our angle actually is pi, or 180 degrees. Our point is -1, 0. So from here, that x is going to be -1. Our tangent is y over x, 0. Our cotangent is -1 over 0, which actually is undefined. And secant is going to equal 1 over 0, which is also going to equal undefined. All right, it's not going to equal anything. It's just going to be undefined. Okay? And there is our answer. All right, so once again, going through here, key thing is identify quadrants, identify where the x and y are, create your triangles. It's all simple geometry, or should I say trigonometry. I hope this helps you out. Good luck and God bless in the rest of your trig problems.